Silence is power when your results can speak louder than your mouth. That's not just a quote, that's a way of moving through life with intention. Because the moment you understand this, you stop wasting time explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand you in the first place. You realize that not every opinion deserves a response, not every challenge deserves your voice, and not every misunderstanding needs your energy. See, the loudest people in the room are usually the least productive. They talk about what they're going to do, who they're going to be, how big they're thinking. But the real ones, they're quiet, they're studying, they're building, they're stacking days on days while everybody else is stacking excuses. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is focus. Silence is discipline. Silence is knowing you're too busy executing to be arguing. When you let your results speak, you remove emotion from the equation. You stop reacting and start responding with action. Because words can be debated, twisted, misunderstood. But results are undeniable. They sit right there in front of everybody. No explanation required. You don't need to announce progress when progress is visible. You don't need to defend your grind when your life is the proof. A lot of people get stuck trying to convince others they're serious. That's a trap. The moment you seek validation, you give away leverage. Real power comes from self-belief so strong that applause becomes optional. You don't move for likes. You don't move for approval. You move because you made a promise to yourself and you respect yourself enough to keep it. Silence also protects your vision. Not everybody needs access to your plans. Not everybody needs to know your next move. There are people who smile in your face but don't want to see you win. There are people who will plant doubt the moment you share too much. So you stay quiet, not out of fear, but out of strategy. You let your vision grow in private until it's strong enough to stand on its own. And let's be real, people will talk whether you explain or not. So why stress yourself trying to control narratives you were never meant to manage? Let them assume, let them guess, let them underestimate. That underestimation is fuel. That doubt is motivation. That silence you keep, that's pressure building, and pressure when focus creates diamonds. When you're really about that work, your routine becomes your language. Early mornings speak, late nights speak, consistency speaks, sacrifice speaks. While others are posting motivation, you're living it. While others are debating paths, you're walking yours. And eventually, people start asking questions, not because you talk louder, because your life started sounding different. Silence teaches patience too. It reminds you that everything doesn't need to happen today. That growth is a process. That mastery takes time. You stop rushing outcomes and start respecting the grind. You understand that every quiet day of work is a deposit, and one day the balance will show. There's also peace in silence, no drama, no back and forth, no unnecessary stress, just clarity, just alignment, just you and your purpose. And when you move like that, distractions lose their power. Opinions fade, noise dies down. All that's left is the mission. At the end of the day, history doesn't remember who talked the most. It remembers who built something real. It remembers who stayed solid when it was lonely, who kept pushing when nobody was watching, who trusted the process when the results were still loading. So stay quiet, stay sharp, stay consistent. Let your work introduce you. Let your discipline speak your name in rooms you've never even stepped into yet. Because when your results are loud, your silence becomes legendary. Defending yourself wastes energy that should be invested in progress. The moment you start explaining who you are, why you move the way you move, or what your intentions really are, you step off your path and onto somebody else's stage. And that stage is built for distraction, not development. Every explanation costs focus. Every argument drains momentum. And momentum is too valuable to spend on people who aren't building anything with you. When you're locked in on your mission, you don't have time to clear your name. You're too busy creating one. See, people who question you usually aren't ahead of you. They're watching from the sidelines. They're commenting from comfort, criticizing from distance, analyzing a journey they were never brave enough to start. And if you keep stopping to respond, you slow yourself down to their pace. Progress doesn't require permission. Growth doesn't need validation. The grind doesn't need applause. It needs consistency. It needs discipline. It needs sacrifice when nobody's clapping. And that kind of work demands full attention. You can't build something meaningful while constantly turning around to defend yourself from noise. Most people misunderstand this. They think defending yourself is strength. They think speaking up proves confidence. But real confidence doesn't argue. Real confidence doesn't rush to explain. Real confidence stays centered and keeps moving. When you know who you are, you don't need to convince anyone else. You let time do the explaining. Defending yourself also keeps you stuck in the past. You're responding to what was said, what was assumed, what already happened. Progress lives in the present and the future. It's forward motion. It's execution. Every minute you spend replaying conversations or crafting responses is a minute you could have spent improving your skills, strengthening your mind, or sharpening your strategy. And here's the truth. People who are committed to misunderstanding you will never be satisfied with your explanation. You could give them facts, context, and honesty, and they'll still twist it. So why keep feeding a fire that was never meant to be put out? Silence starves negativity. Focus starves doubt. Success starves criticism. There's a level you reach where you realize your energy is your currency. You stop spending it carelessly. You invest it where it multiplies, in your habits, in your craft, in your health, in your vision. And once you start seeing results from that investment, it becomes clear defending yourself was always a bad deal. Progress speaks universal language. It doesn't need subtitles. When your work starts showing conversations change, doubt turns to curiosity, criticism turns into respect, not because you argued better, but because you worked harder. Results have a way of humbling opinions without saying a word. Staying focused while misunderstood is a discipline. It's not easy. Your ego will want to respond. Your emotions will want to react. But maturity is knowing when to ignore the urge and stay locked in. You remind yourself why you started. You remember the bigger picture. You keep your eyes on the destination, not the distractions along the road. And understand this, every great run comes with resistance. If you're doing something meaningful, somebody will question it. If you're growing, somebody will doubt it. That's not a sign to explain yourself. That's a sign you're moving. That's confirmation you're on a path that requires strength. So let them talk. Let them assume. Let them misunderstand. You keep showing up. You keep putting in the hours. You keep stacking days with intention. Because one day, the progress will be so clear that explanations won't even cross your mind. Energy is limited. Time is non-refundable. Invest both in progress, not defense. Build so consistently that your life becomes the answer. That's how you win without arguing. That's how you stay ahead. That's how you turn focus into legacy. Respect is earned through consistency, not explanations. That's a lesson you learn once you've been tested enough times to realize words don't carry weight unless they're backed by action. Anybody can talk. Anybody can promise. Anybody can explain why things didn't work out. But very few people can show up every day and do the work, especially when nobody is watching and nothing is guaranteed. Consistency is loud. It speaks without raising its voice. When people see you moving the same way on good days and bad days, when they see you committed even when the results are slow, something shifts. They stop questioning your intentions and start watching your patterns. Patterns tell the truth. Patterns don't lie. Patterns reveal character. Explanations, on the other hand, are cheap. Most of the time, they're just attempts to protect ego or control perception. You start explaining yourself when you care too much about how you're being seen instead of what you're building. And the more you explain, the less people believe you. Because deep down, everybody knows real respect comes from what you do repeatedly, not what you say occasionally. When you're consistent, you don't need to convince anyone you're serious. Your routine already did that. Early mornings, late nights, sacrifice, discipline, staying locked in when distractions are loud. That kind of behavior earns respect in silence. People may not say it out loud, but they notice, they always notice. Consistency also builds self-respect first. Before the world respects you, you have to respect yourself enough to keep your word to yourself. That's where it starts. When you say you're going to do something and you actually do it day after day, you build internal credibility. And once you have that, outside opinions lose their power. You're no longer moved by doubt or criticism because you know what you put in. A lot of people want respect without the routine. They want recognition without repetition. They want credit without commitment. So they talk, they explain, they justify. But respect doesn't come from being understood. It comes from being dependable, from being solid, from being the same person whether someone's watching or not. Staying consistent also means staying patient. You don't switch directions every time somebody questions you. You don't abandon the plan because it hasn't paid off yet. You trust the process because you're focused on the long game. That patience separates real builders from temporary performers. Anybody can be motivated for a week. Consistency is what shows who's really in it. Over time, something powerful happens. The same people who doubted you stop asking questions. The same voices that wanted explanations start respecting your silence. Not because you argued better, but because you stayed the course. Your consistency outlasted their opinions. And understand this, respect earned this way is solid. It doesn't disappear when things get to, it doesn't depend on trends or moods. It's rooted in reliability. People know what they're going to get from you. They know you're about what you say. That's rare. And rarity commands respect. You don't rush this process. You don't chase it. You don't beg for it. You just keep working. You let the days stack. You let the habits form. You let the results come in their own time. And when they do, respect follows naturally. So stop explaining. Stop justifying. Stop trying to be understood by everybody. Focus on being consistent. Show up. Do the work. Repeat. That's the formula. Because in the end, respect doesn't come from what you say. It comes from what you do over and over again. Let time, discipline, and results clear your name. That's the code you live by when you're serious about building something that lasts. Because in a world obsessed with instant reactions and quick explanations, patience becomes a weapon. You don't rush to defend yourself. You don't chase every rumor. You don't try to correct every misunderstanding. You stay solid and let the process do the talking. Time is undefeated. It exposes lies, reveals intentions, and separates real effort from fake energy. You don't need to argue with time. You need to align with it. When you keep showing up day after day, time starts working in your favor. People may question you early on, doubt you, or even write you off. That's part of the journey. Time watches everything. And if your work is honest, time will tell that story for you. Discipline is the bridge between who you are now and who you're becoming. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's repetitive. It's waking up when you don't feel like it. It's staying locked in when motivation fades. Discipline doesn't care about opinions. It doesn't need approval. It just demands consistency. And over time, that consistency builds something nobody can deny. Most people fold when it gets uncomfortable. They break routine when things slow down. They abandon discipline the moment they don't see immediate results. But if you stay committed, if you keep your structure tight, discipline becomes your identity. People start recognizing you not for what you say, but for how you move. That kind of respect is earned in silence. Results are the final authority. They don't argue. They don't explain. They just exist. When results show up, conversations change. The same people who questioned you start paying attention. The same voices that doubted you start watching closely. And not because you explained yourself, but because your work made the explanation unnecessary. Results don't come from reacting. They come from staying focused while the noise tries to pull you off course. Every distraction you ignore, every urge to respond that you resist, every time you choose work over ego, you're investing in results, and those investments compound. Clearing your name isn't about convincing people you're right. It's about outlasting doubt. It's about being so consistent that confusion fades on its own. Time plus discipline creates momentum. Momentum creates results, and results rewrite narratives. There will be moments when silence feels heavy, when you want to speak up, when you want to defend your intentions. But that's where growth happens. That's where maturity is built. You remind yourself why you started. You remember the bigger picture. You trust that staying the course will speak louder than any explanation. A lot of people want justice fast. They want recognition now. They want their name cleared immediately. But real ones understand that truth doesn't need urgency. It needs endurance. If what you're doing is real, it will stand up to time. If your discipline is solid, it will carry you through doubt. And if your results are strong, they will silence questions permanently. You don't chase validation, you chase excellence. You don't correct rumors, you correct habits. You don't respond to negativity, you respond with work. That's the mindset shift that separates builders from talkers. In the long run, time becomes your witness, discipline becomes your reputation, results become your voice, and when all three align, your name clears itself. No announcements, no arguments, just undeniable proof. Stay patient, stay disciplined, stay working. Let time do its job, let discipline shape you. Let results speak for you. That's how legacies are built. Staying focused is the ultimate response to doubt and disrespect. Not arguing, not explaining, not reacting emotionally. Focus is the answer because focus keeps you moving forward while distractions try to pull you backward. When people doubt you or throw disrespect your way, they're really testing your discipline. They're checking to see if you'll break alignment with your mission just to prove a point. Doubt is noise. Disrespect is bait. And focus is how you refuse both. Most people get caught up trying to correct how they're perceived. They want to be understood. They want to be acknowledged. But every time you stop to address doubt, you pause progress. Every time you react to disrespect, you give it control over your energy. Focus protects your direction. It keeps you locked in on what actually matters. When you're focused, you understand that opinions don't build futures. Habits do. Consistent action does. Long-term vision does. Focus means you know exactly where you're going, so detours don't interest you. You stop turning your head every time someone calls your name from the sidelines. Disrespect often comes when people see you moving differently. When you stop playing small, when you start thinking long-term, when you refuse to explain your moves, that's when doubt shows up, not because you're wrong, but because your growth makes people uncomfortable. Focus allows you to keep building without internalizing their insecurity. There's power in not reacting. It shows self-control. It shows maturity. It shows confidence. Anyone can talk back. Anyone can argue. But not everyone can stay disciplined when emotions are high. Focus is emotional control turned into progress. You don't win by proving people wrong in conversations. You win by proving them irrelevant to your journey. And the only way to do that is to keep working, keep sharpening your craft, keep stacking days, keep honoring your routine even when the outside world is loud. When you stay focused, time becomes your ally. Days turn into momentum. Momentum turns into results. And results quiet doubt better than any comeback ever could. Doubt can't survive consistency. Disrespect can't compete with discipline. Focus also keeps your vision clean. When you're distracted by negativity, your goals get blurry. You start questioning yourself. You start reacting instead of executing. But when you stay focused, your path stays clear. You trust the process. You trust your preparation. You trust the work you've put in. A focused mind doesn't need validation. It's already committed. It's already invested. It already knows the cost. That's why it doesn't waste time responding to disrespect. It understands that every ounce of energy is better spent moving closer to the destination. Staying focused doesn't mean you don't notice doubt or disrespect. It means you don't let it steer you. You acknowledge it, then you get back to work. You remind yourself that this journey isn't about applause. It's about alignment. It's about becoming the person capable of carrying the results you want. Eventually, the same people who doubted you will respect your consistency, not because you demanded it, but because focus turned into proof. And even if they never do, it won't matter, because by then, you'll be too far ahead to care. Focus is the long game. It's the daily decision to choose growth over ego, progress over pride, purpose over reaction. When you master that, doubt loses its grip, disrespect loses its power, and all that's left is forward motion. Stay locked in, stay disciplined, let focus be your response.